Come to the Southbury Energy Fair
to learn about renewable resources,
how you can save money and the planet.
At the Southbury Green on September 21st.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of On the Town. On the Town is a series of interviews with leaders who are helping to make Southbury a great place to live, raise a family, own a business, and retire. I'm your host, Ed Edelson, and today I'm proud to have two guests here who are trying to make a difference in Southbury by founding an organization called Sustainable Southbury. So we'll have a chance to talk about what sustainability means. But before we do that, let me introduce our guests. We have Nannette Trainkaus. Nannette, thanks so much for coming by.
Thanks, Ed.
And Chuck Litty, who I've come to know, and I know of his passion for the environment and for this concept of sustainability. But before we dive into what do we mean by sustainability, Chuck, why don't you share with us a little bit about your background and how you got to the point of establishing or founding Sustainable Southbury.
Sure. So I have a long and varied background, but I was originally trained as a forester, and I worked in the field for several years. When we moved down to Georgia, I became very interested in the quantitative aspects of forestry. While I was working at the Forest Research Experiment Station there. And so that led to a degree in applied math and statistics, but in forestry concentration. And then after that, we decided we wanted to move back up to the Northeast. So I made the pragmatic decision to leave forestry at that time and ended up 31 years with GE Capital doing applied math and statistics.
Okay.
And it was a great company. I got a lot of great training there, but all through that time, I was always had one eye on the environment, if you will, right? Because it's very close to my heart. And I really wanted to be working more in that field rather than, the pragmatic decision to make a living with GE Capital.
Very good. Nannette, yourself?
Yes, I have a background in corporate. I worked for First Brands Corporation, which is Glad Products, plastic company. I've worked for James River Corporation, paper company, makes Dixie, Brawny, consumer products. I've lived in Southbury for 26 years and have always also been very concerned with the environment. Through my children, and they're learning at school about sustainability, recycling, reusing, composting. They've really changed my view on the environment.
All right. Well, there's a phrase about the children will lead and we will follow. So
exactly.
Sounds like and many of us have been in that position. So maybe just a little bit of a background about Sustainable Southbury. Where did the idea come from? You woke up one morning and said, today's the day.
No, it was sort of an outgrowth of the training I got after I retired from GE Capital. I went back and got a degree in sustainable design. Sustainable design is all about developing buildings or urban landscapes or communities in a more sustainable manner. And I wanted to be able to come back and make an impact in some way. And I didn't want to just start an organization that was more around advocacy, because I think that space is already filled with many other organizations that are doing it, probably better than we could, honestly. So I wanted to do something that was more locally focused, think locally, think globally, act locally, right? And so I thought Sustainable Southbury would be a good organization to start. It's a grassroots sort of organization aimed at, making sustainable, transforming Southbury into a green community.
And a great idea. Then, so how did you create the organization? I mean, that's a lot of people have an idea like that, but to actually make it into something that functions, that takes a little bit more effort, if you will.
Yeah, this is something I wrestled with for a while. Fortunately, some of the training I got in sustainable design, gave me some ideas about how to go to it. They had a definite emphasis on getting involved in the community. And when I looked at Southbury, I thought, well, there's kind of two big threads that we want to deal with, right? We want to make our buildings and our town act in a more sustainable manner. We want to improve the energy conservation of our buildings. But we also need much more of a grassroots organization focused on, reducing waste and living closer to the earth, right? And so it seemed to me that there's two big threads. One was around, an energy commission with the town, focused on municipal buildings and trying to inspire the town to do more leadership in this area. And then the second area was more of a grassroots organization involving as many people as we can to provide education and to start moving and living in a more sustainable manner.
Well, how much of your, I'm aware, as we've discussed, about the idea at the state level of Sustainable Connecticut. Did that influence your thinking, or you learned about that after you decided what you were going to do in Southbury?
No, and that's great, because one of the assignments I had as a student of sustainable design was to get involved with the community. And so when I started looking around for organizations, I found Sustainable CT. And at that moment, it was in the process of being birthed, if you will.
Yeah. And about what time frame was that?
That was about 2 to 3 years ago now.
Okay.
And so I decided I would get involved with this organization. And I served on the Land and Natural Resources Committee. And Sustainable CT is all about a statewide initiative to help municipalities become certified as sustainable communities. There's
Right.
2 levels of certification. There's a bronze and a silver certification. And my role on this was on the Land and Natural Resources Committee to create the actions that towns could take, right?
Okay.
To protect our land and natural resources.
So do you, before I go back to you, Chuck, because you've taken this degree, or have this degree, when people ask you, Nannette, what is sustainable? Do you have as we sometimes say, an elevator speech about what you mean by sustainable?
Sustainable is doing sustainable practices that help the environment. I mean, we don't want to pollute. We want to do whatever we can to, drink from recycled bottles, stop using plastic bags, composting, recycling, just being very conscious of our choices.
Right.
And part of this group is to educate people on how to do that. So.
But I'm thinking Chuck might give me a more professorial definition.
Probably.
It's a very practical one.
Yes.
But we see it, I see it along major threads. Sustainability is a very broad topic, right? But certainly building energy, being more conservative in the way that we build our buildings so that they use less energy, right? That's a huge opportunity, because building something like 40 to 50% of the energy used in the U.S. is through the buildings, right? So if we can make them more energy efficient, that's a very high impact thing that we can be doing. It's using clean energy, right? Moving away from burning fossil fuels, solar cell technologies, other renewable energies, right? It's cleaning up our transportation, right? Electric vehicles and so on, right? There's a problem in that we're still using fossil fuels to generate that electricity, but by moving toward electric vehicles, we're moving ourselves toward putting more pressure on our policymakers to change the grid to a more sustainable technologies, right? It's reducing waste. It's environmental justice, right? It's not just for the rich; it's for everybody, right? So these are, these are the threads, if you will, that Sustainable Southbury is going to be involved with in developing in our community.
Well, I thought you were going to go in a slightly different direction, but because I think of it as more, I'm trying to remember the exact phrase, but it's sort of that we inherit our environment from our children, rather than think of the environment as something for us to use, and however we use it, it goes forward. We have to have our eye on what are we going to leave for our children.
Exactly.
And if we don't have that, if we have only the perspective of everything's here for us to use, as we see to use as best we can, or for our best purposes, we need to have a strong eye, a big eye on what we're going to leave for our children, because we really borrow that future from them. But let's talk a little bit more about what you've already accomplished, which I think is pretty impressive, given there's no, you're not a part of the town government, you're not the part of Heritage Village, you're really sort of a grassroots organization that came up. But I think this last year, the year before, whatever, here we are in January, so last year, yes, you got off the ground. I think that was really your initial year, 2019, and you at least pulled off the energy fair. You want to talk a little bit about that and any other activities of 2019?
Yeah, so last September we organized, a colleague of mine organized the Sustainable the Southbury Energy Fair and Green Expo. And my vision was to have one concentrated area where people could come learn about sustainability. And so there were four major threads that we focused on. One is around clean energy, but we didn't want to dominate the fair with just that, because it's very easy to find solar vendors, right, to come in. So we kept that to one key vendor. It's about conservation, energy conservation. So we had a whole thread on what we can do to make our buildings more sustainable and save people, help people save money along the way, right, to reduce your energy bills. We had an eco village, right, so everyday actions that people can take to live more sustainably.
Okay.
And so it was a great fair. We had we did a lot of advertising. We had about 400 to 500 people come through. We had we pulled in the school system and had a poster contest to get the students involved. Eco Friends Club from Pomperog High School came and helped us with the fair, and we're a very active part of it.
Excellent.
So, yeah, we were very pleased with the turnout.
And I have to admit, I went, and I think you were pretty strategic or tactical, whatever, in picking, I think it was Electric Vehicle Week.
Yeah, oh, yes.
And so I think there were like 10 electric vehicles there.
It was up to 20.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it was great.
And I know in the past we've tried to get vendors there, but I think this was quite interesting. You had a lot of users or owners of vehicles there, and very proud to show what they've done as, sort of thought leaders by making that commitment to a new idea, electric vehicles.
Yeah, it was amazing. There were people that came from Long Island, from quite far distances, and we had about 20. We never dreamed we'd have that many, but we had them all lined up in front of the rock wall at the entrance to the fair. We had the Teslas there with the gull wings going up and down, and there was a lot of buzz and excitement as people went down and had an opportunity to see all the various models and speak to the owners directly, right?
No,
not just the marketing pitch.
Right, yeah. Which I think is really important for breaking down stereotypes or misunderstandings that might exist about any new technology.
Yeah.
So, Nannette, were you involved with the energy fair?
No, I started working with Chuck in the fall. So I actually was at a climate change rally that you were at the day of the energy fair. So
That was the same day?
Yeah, I think it was the same day.
Wow. Okay,
So,
I'm sure you're right. It all blends or
yes,
blurs.
it all does. So, or maybe the day before. But I didn't know about it. And I, as a citizen, wanted to get involved with sustainability in our town. And Chuck had some meetings, and I went to one of them and wanted to make a difference.
And I've done this before on the town. When I'm wrong, I like to admit it. I think I told Chuck, no way you will get Region 15 involved. The students are way too busy. The teachers are up to here with curriculum that they have to do. You're going to get no participation. I was wrong. Okay, now we can move on.
Well, we surprised even ourselves with that, and it was thanks to my colleague Ron Brandeis who really made it happen, and we learned ways to do it better for next year. So,
all right. Well, let's turn our attention to this year and the future. What types of let's talk about 2020. What would you like to see accomplished by Sustainable Southbury this year?
Yeah, so we have we're filling out our calendar right now, and we have one thing. We'll do the energy fair again, and we're going to
Same time frame,
Same
fall?
time frame. We're going to coordinate it with National Drive Electric Week again.
Okay.
So that'll be great, and we're going to start organizing that pretty quickly. Another thing that we're very excited about is a film series that Nannette is organizing for us. So,
Okay.
maybe you want to describe that.
Yes, so
Please.
we had a film on February 6th called The Plastic Problem. It's a PBS film. We have 3 panelists that are going to be at the library. It was at the Southbury Library. And the film is a wonderful film and very educational.
So is that the typical format you have in mind? Show a film, then have a panel,
Yes.
have them discuss it a little bit, but then I assume some audience participation, Q&A.
Exactly.
That type of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And our plans are to, the first film was at the library. I spoke to Kevin LaFlamme, the owner of Riverview Theaters, and he has allowed us to show films at the theater, which we're very excited about. So we're probably going to do films on a quarterly basis. So we're going to do topics such as healthy yards and pollinators and getting rid of fertilizers and just an overall educational environmental film series.
All right, excellent. And so it'll be a mix. I mean, sometimes it might be at the library, sometimes hopefully it'll be at Riverview.
We're still working that out.
Okay.
Yes.
And Woodbury, right?
Yes, and we're also joining with Sustainable Woodbury.
Right.
So they're going to be joint efforts. So we might be doing some at the Woodbury Library also. So we're going to try to do as many things with Sustainable Woodbury as possible also.
Okay. Any other things filling out the calendar at this point for 2020?
Well, we had a great meeting just this last week with Region 15 again, and we were really talking about 3 major things we might be doing with them. One, we might help them with sustainability education, because through all of this we've come to learn of a number of resources that they may not be aware of, right, to help, because the teachers are so involved with the core curriculum, right, they may not be aware of all the sustainable educational material that's out there to help them teach. So they were very open to that, and we were able to identify a few things that they didn't know about, so that's great. Another is around waste reduction.
And just, if I could, when you talk to them, are you talking about all ages or mostly high school, or what's your target audience, if you will, within the school age population?
Yeah, it really depends on what you're doing with them, but the strategy is to start young and let it work up through the school system that way, and educate all the kids as much as we can.
And that's the way the region understood it. That is not a high school only or
That's right.
just middle school, but
Yeah, we were meeting with the
K through 12.
the assistant superintendent,
Right.
And that was the idea: is how
Okay.
do we permeate this throughout the whole organization? And in terms of lunchroom recycling, that was the general advice: is you start with young kids first and train them, and then it perpetrates all through the school system.
okay.
But we are working also with the Eco Friends Club at the Pomperaug High School, and they are a member of Sustainable Southbury. They helped us with the energy fair, and they're very involved with helping us move this forward. So it's kind of a multi-pronged approach.
Okay. And so I understand you're working with the school system, but I understand you're also working with the town of Southbury?
Yes. So, as I mentioned earlier, we think it's very important for the town to show some leadership on this, and for the town to investigate and start bringing in more clean energy, and to reduce the energy use of the town buildings, right? And help the residents learn how to reduce the energy of their own buildings, right? So we're working on getting the energy task force reinstated, and it's an active discussion right now, but I think it's probably going to go. So we're very excited about that.
All right. Well, I think it's, I believe in Woodbury, the town is intimately involved. In fact, I think the town is the one that put forward their application for
Yes.
Sustainable Woodbury.
Yes, they did.
And at this point, Southbury is a laggard when it comes to that. So hopefully you can move the ball forward for Southbury?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of investigation around solar right now, and there's a possibility that we'll be doing another solar project in town, as well as understanding how well the solar panels on the library have been doing over time. So we're going through and we're doing best practices with all the neighboring towns that are already doing this right now, and putting together a standardized process in learning what works and what doesn't work, right? So we're very excited about this. I think it's going to be a great thing for the town.
You know, I think a lot of people who might not realize there are solar panels on the library because they blend in so well with the roof line. But we do have a demonstration project there, and so it'll be interesting to see what the results have been for the last, I guess they've been up there like 6 years now, but they've sort of just become part of the roof. Although I know there was a lot of opposition aesthetically when we tried to do that initially. So, but it just shows you over time people begin to understand and accept differences.
Yeah, I mean, solar is becoming so much more mainstream now, and so, you know, any change like this to aesthetics is always, you know, kind of a hard thing to manage and for people to get used to. But if you put them on in the right way, as you pointed out, and you take aesthetics into consideration as you're doing it, it can be a very viable solution.
Right. So I know you've been working with ministry here in Southbury. Anything specific at this point, or is it more work in progress?
Yeah, so why don't you tell them a little bit about some of the interfaith efforts that we're doing?
Jerry, I can't remember Jerry's last name.
Oh,
but
I can't pronounce it.
Jerry's been very involved with the interfaith, and we're going to a conference at Yale next week. It's reimagining ways of being religion and spirituality and ecological activism. So it's a full day. It is free if anybody wants to go. It's February 7th.
Are members of the clergy here going with you, or is this something you're doing on
Jerry's going. Yes, we're doing it on our own.
Is Jerry with your group, or
Yes.
he's a minister?
She.
She.
She's-
There you go. Oops.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot of outreach right now.
Okay.
And Jerry is well, I want to get this right. She's a chaplain.
Oh, from
at the
Sacred
hospital
Heart. But
at
she's
St. Mary's.
okay. No, I had somebody else in mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's already deeply involved with the religious community and a very active interest in sustainability. Unfortunately, come here today, but she's kind of our point person for the interfaith group.
Okay.
And we've been meeting with the interfaith group with the goal of reaching as many religious leaders and congregations as possible.
Right. That's what I was aware of. Just we were kind of at the same meeting at the same time,
Yeah.
but for different reasons. So I wasn't, and that was, I guess, about a month ago or maybe two. But I was wondering if anything more had evolved there. But
Yeah, we've
it's
been
an important part
we've
of
been
our
talking
community.
with them a little bit more, and you know, they've agreed to we can begin helping them with some of their building energy projects, as well as look for more volunteers for Sustainable Southbury.
Well, speaking of volunteers, we have a few people who live here in the village. If people are interested in helping out, participating with Sustainable Southbury, what would you advise? What kinds of things can they do, and how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so it's all along these threads, right? If you're interested in helping us work with the schools and starting, you know, lunchroom recycling programs or improving building energy, you know, we're looking for people to actively work with the school system. Same thing with the town, right? We need mechanical engineers that have training in HVAC systems, because these are often where a lot of the energy savings can be saved, and including to, you know, building envelope kind of improvements to, you know, stop the air leakage and insulate the buildings better and improve the windows and that kind of thing, right? We need people to help us with composting projects, right? We'd like to get composting going on in the school system. So the amount of food waste is tremendous, and it's probably the number one thing that drives all the expense around trash removal in the school systems. That and cardboard, right? So
And we do have a wonderful video for for that, to show what the Wilton school
Yes.
system is doing.
And can we show that now?
3 years ago, in my 6th grade classes, we went into the cafeteria and we would take bags of garbage out. And I took plastic and I dumped it out all over the floor. And I had the students separate it out into what could be recycled, what was food waste, and what was actually garbage. And we kept coming up with these numbers that were just astronomical. 90% of the bag of garbage could have either been recycled or composted, 95%, really big numbers. And then we started finding whole pieces of food in the garbage, like yogurts that were unopened and granola bars that had never been touched, and all of these things. And so we landed on a project where the 6th graders would weigh the garbage, give the data to the 8th graders, and the 8th graders had to come up with an actual prototype for a composter.
Green initiatives are something that are really part and parcel of who we are here at Middlebrook. It definitely weaves right into the idea that we're trying to raise our community's next adult leaders.
With my work with Wilton Go Green and the zero waste from their standpoint, they introduced me to Nick from Curbside Compost. And Nick said, oh, well, we can actually take all of your food waste, including dairy, meats, all that stuff. The superintendent came in, was able to give us the money. Then the next big barrier was trying to convince the custodians and the rest of kind of the support staff to learn a new way of collecting garbage.
Before, it was a lot of containers garbage here inside the cafeteria. They were everywhere. So they put garbage and recycling and everything together. So now they're doing that. So we're learning a lot.
You don't realize how different every grade level can be. So, if you're in a preschool, elementary school versus a middle school or high school, the types and the amount of garbage that they're throwing away actually varies considerably.
We actually typically have a teacher near each of the waste stations, and I do think that increases student awareness and buy-in.
There was a mad rush for the stations right before recess, and kids were mad. They were like, I'm not getting to, I can't throw anything away, I'm missing recess. So really retraining them on how to use the stations. And then once that actually happened, it took a couple months, but then everything started running really smoothly.
Kids know where they go. So that was a good idea to put this again. Really good idea.
When we start doing waste diversion, we think about what do we do with the waste that we have. And really what we need to get kids thinking about and whole communities thinking about is how do we have less waste in the first place.
The donations piece of this was a really big piece. It turned out that the kids were taking the food that other kids weren't eating. And at the middle school level, that's really great. If they're still hungry at the end of lunch and they see a yogurt in the donations fridge, by all means. If there's a school that's trying to get out there and start this program, first you have to talk to your superintendents and the administrators at each of the schools. That message is getting filtered down to the rest of the staff, then no one has the incentive to do it. You need to understand your carting contract and really go into your carting company, talking to them about where they're flexible. If there is a potential for cost savings down the road, are they maybe in the future going to offer compost pickup? Also looking at your custodial union contracts. Having those things in place before you try to push it out is just going to make your life a lot easier.
Your cafeteria is going to be cleaner when your children leave it. The kids are going to have greater ownership. There are real citizenship and supervision benefits that come from this kind of work.
Warriors will waste!
Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing that. Any comments on the backside of seeing that you want to bring to people's attention about what's going on with in Wilton and its applicability to Southbury?
Yeah, Wilton has made some great strides in reducing their waste. Something like 90% of their waste they've been able to take out of the trash stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're recycling it or composting it now. Food is obviously the major component of that, but they have curbside compost coming in and picking up their food waste. So it's a win,
Right.
for them. But they are part of a much larger initiative called the Zero School Waste Coalition.
Okay.
Started by Tammy Thornton. There's now 26 different schools participating in this, sharing best practices and perpetuating this. And, we would like our region to join this as well.
Sounds good to me. So if people in the village want to get involved, is a website, a phone number, what's the best, what should they do?
Yeah, so we have a flyer that we'll put up and show everybody, but it's, it's basically we want them to reach out to Nannette or myself.
Okay.
And my contact information is, it's on the slide, but
Okay.
it's chuck.litty@gmail.com. And yours, I don't know by heart, but
It's N Trainkaus, TRINKAUS, the number 1 @gmail.com.
All right. Or you could just call her number 1. That's
Yes,
it.
there you go.
Very good. Well, I would encourage everyone to take a look at the flyer. At this point, you don't have a website yet, I don't think.
We're going to be having one very soon.
Okay.
And we do have a Facebook page.
Okay. Sustainable Southbury. If
Yep.
they
Yes.
go in Facebook and
Yes.
search
Just-
Sustainable Southbury,
Yes.
they'll get there.
And
All
we have
right.
lots of information on the Facebook page, and we've been posting lots of educational videos.
Right. And I think you have that key leg up on going to Facebook because you have students involved.
Yes.
So it's not up to the
And
two of you.
Instagram, and we're on Instagram
Yeah.
also.
and they
Yeah.
designed our website for us.
Yes.
There you go. So you're cheating. But it's a good kind of cheating. Well, anything else you would like to make sure we share with the audience before we bring this interview to a close?
We would just like to get as many people as possible involved. If you're passionate about your community and you'd want to get involved, please give us a call. We'd love to have you join us.
Couldn't have said it better myself. That's
All right.
exactly what we need.
Very good. Well, thank you for watching another edition of On the Town, and please stay tuned to future editions of On the Town, where we'll have an opportunity to talk to other leaders who are helping to make Southbury a great place to live.
Hi, I'm Juliana Jensen.
My name is Amelia, and I'm going into 3rd grade.
I'm Katana Ferguson-Smith. Emma Winkleman. Kaylee Exedy.
I'm Bobby Livonia. I'm 13.
My name is Nico Latarulo.
My name's Isabella Livonia. I'm 16, and I'm a junior in high school at Pomprog.
Are you concerned about climate change?
Yes.
Very.
Yes, because I don't like when it thunderstorms because I'm scared of thunder.
It's a big issue, and we're not doing enough to stop it.
Honestly, it affects everybody. It doesn't matter where you are. We are seeing a wave right now of weather patterns that aren't regular and are shown not to be regular. And it's soon enough that we won't have a planet to live in anymore.
Well, I really like animals, so I'm really afraid like polar bears are going to lose their homes, and animals are going to lose their homes due to climate change.
It's kind of scary knowing that my kids are going to grow up in a very different world.
They're doing a new thing like around Connecticut, I think, where they're banning plastic bags, or like single-use plastic bags, where they're making you bring like tote bags or charging people to use the single-use ones. So I really like that, and I feel like we could go a step further by banning like straws, or having like paper straws, or just having people bring metal straws.
Recycle more.
Put a lot more into electric cars and solar panels and other like clean sources of
We
energy.
could lobby politicians or anything like that just to get it moving politically. I mean, we're already like starting a trend with reusable water bottles, reusable straws, and all that stuff, banning plastic bags, and I think we're on the right track.
To use less plastic, go more green, and to stop deforestation.
We should use less plastic bags. We should make the tax higher on plastic bags in like grocery stores.
Would you support banning single-use plastics like plastic bags and straws?
I would.
Absolutely.
I do support bans on plastic because you can reuse a lot of stuff, and I really do believe in reduce, reuse, recycle. I am very concerned about the climate change because it's our Earth. We have to take care of it.